Hi, in this tutorial we're going to see how to install Docker Desktop on Windows. If you go to docker.com/pricing, you can see that we have different plans according to your needs. In this case, we're going to start with the personal one, okay? You click on Start Now. You can see that you can have Docker Desktop, unlimited public repositories, Docker Engine, Kubernetes, and 200 image pools for 6 hours, and that's more than enough for our personal projects, okay? And you can see all the differences between these plans here, but for our course we just need to download the personal ones, more than enough. Okay, now let's go to developers, getting started, and here you can see that we have the link automatically to download Docker Desktop for Windows. You can change, of course, if you want to install for different operating system, but in this lesson we're going to see how to install Docker for Windows, but it's the same process for any other operating system. So just click download. If you go to this address, docs.docker.com desktop Windows install, you're going to see your system requirements, okay? We're going to use WSL2 backend. This is Windows Subsystem for Linux, and you have to have Windows 11 64-bit Home or Pro edition, or Windows 10 64-bit Home or Pro with this build. So if you go to Windows and search for system information, you're going to see what kind of operating system you have and the version. For example, I here have 19043, so build 19043. So it's okay to install Docker on this computer. So verify that you have this version and this build so that you can install Docker Desktop on your Windows machine. Once we've downloaded Docker Desktop, let's double click the file. Let's choose install anyway. Let's say yes to this window where we authorize to install this app even though it's not coming from Windows Marketplace. Okay, let's click yes. Now you can see that Docker Desktop requires some packages in order to run in Windows. It says it's going to install require Windows components for WSL2, and it's going to also add a shortcut to our desktop. Let's say okay, and it's going to download all the packages it needs in order to run. Okay, it says installation succeeded. Let's click close. And now if we search for Docker Desktop, you can see that we have now this app. Let's double click. Now we can accept the service agreement. It says it has changed in the sense that we have some limitations for using Docker Desktop for free. For example, it remains free for small businesses, fewer than 250 employees, and less than 10 million in annual revenue. Personal use, education, and non-commercial open source projects. Okay, we can accept that. Let's take here, I accept the terms. And if you see this message here that the Windows Subsystem for Linux 2 is incomplete or is not installed, you can click the link and you can come here to this documentation. And you can see here the command to install Windows Subsystem for Linux. So let's copy this command and let's open a terminal. Let's search for terminal. You can use PowerShell or you can use the classical prompt command, the command prompt here. Okay, both of them works. And if you launch this command, you're going to see that it's going to ask you for some more parameters. If you go to here where it says -- install, you can see that you have to specify the distribution that you want to install. For example, Windows install -d Ubuntu. In my case, I already have WS install. Once the WSL is installed, we can launch this command WSL list to see if we have any distribution. For example, here I don't have any. If it didn't automatically install Ubuntu, you can type in WSL list -- online, and you can see all the distribution that we can install. In this case, we can just launch WS install -d, and we can choose this version. For example, Ubuntu -20.04. If you happen to have this error, for example, that WSL2 requires an update to its kernel component, and you can go to this URL. You click here to download this package in order to update this WSL2 version. This is because By default, you might have, for example, WSL version 1, and in order to migrate to version 2, we need this package. Okay, in my case, I needed this migration. Maybe in your case, you didn't need to upgrade that version because you already had version 2. Okay, I'm gonna launch this command. We can open the command prompt, and you can see the operation completed successfully. In this case, we can launch again the installation ws-install Ubuntu -20.04 -d. We have to put -d, and now you can see that the installing process has begun. Okay, once the installation begins, you have to choose a Unix username in order to log into this Unix subsystem. Okay, I'm gonna choose my own name, and then you type in your password. I retype my password. Okay, and if you type in a Unix command like pwd, you can see that it works, and you're gonna have your home directory and then your username. In this case, I chose Hydran or Hydran as my username. Okay, now we are here inside Linux, inside Ubuntu. We could have also installed Ubuntu by going to apps here and then type in Ubuntu. And we could have also installed Ubuntu by going to Windows app. It's the same thing, okay? Now let's launch again Docker Desktop. Okay, now we have Docker Desktop running in our system. You can see that we have a small tutorial here that we can click skip. And let's take a look here to our Docker system. Let's click here on the wrench. And here we can choose to start Docker Desktop when we log in. So if we use Docker every day, it's handy to have this option checked. We can also expose this daemon on this port, and we can check this one here, use Docker Compose version 2. And Docker Compose, it's a way to install containers by using a Docker file that we're gonna see later on. Let's flag this option. Here, if we click on resources, we can click on advanced resources, and you can see here that it says you are using WSL2 backend, so resource limits are managed by Windows. It means that Windows are gonna give some resources to this Ubuntu system according to your memory, according to your microprocessors installed on your computer. Here we can see also network, where the Docker subnet is going to work. We can also set some DNS and WS integration we have here. If we click refresh, we can integrate Docker Desktop to use our Ubuntu 20.04 version. Let's select, and after that you can click here and apply and restart. Okay, and we can come here to software updates. We can check for updates. We can also flag here to always download updates, and let's click apply and restart. We can also sign into Docker Hub directly from Docker Desktop by clicking sign in here on the top right corner. Okay, I'm already signed in, so you can see my name here. Okay, after coming to this main window, we can check if Docker is running by running this command. Docker is going to be available as a command if we open a command prompt and we'll launch Docker. You can see all the options that we have here. We have attach, build, create, exec, etc. pool that we're gonna see later on. Docker version, if we launch Docker version, we can see the version that we're running and all the information about our version. This command, what it does is to run a Docker image that is called Docker getting started. If this image is not installed in our system, it's gonna download it, and then it's going to expose the internal port, in this case 80, that is for web pages, to our own port. In this case, port 80. For example, I have already taken this port on my PC for some other web servers, so I'm gonna change that port. So copy this command here. Let's go back to our command prompt, and I'm gonna expose this web server on port 8000 of my computer. Let's press enter, and you can see here that it says unable to find image Docker getting started. Now it's downloading that image into our Docker desktop. And if we run this command now, docker ps, we're going to see here that we have a container installed. That is the one that we already launched with Docker run. You can see that we have here a container ID. We have the image name, docker/getting started. The command that launched our web server on port 8000, that's inside the Docker image. It was created 9 seconds ago. It's up, and you can see here that the port 80 is being exposed. So if we go to our browser and open localhost on port 8000, you're going to see that we have the web page inside that container. Okay, this is a web page running inside the container. It isn't in our local host, okay, but inside the Docker container that we've just installed. If we put also the IP 127.0.0.1, you can see that we have the same web page. Now, if we go to the terminal again and run this command, docker stop, and then we can select here the container ID. And now if we run docker ps, you can see that we have no images running in Docker. And now if we relaunch this page, if we refresh by pressing F5 or by clicking refresh, you can see that we don't have the web server anymore. Why? Because we stopped the container running in Docker desktop. And if we launch it again, we want port 4000. And if we launch again Docker ps, we have here the same information that we have before. It only changed the container ID and the port that we chose, that was 4000 instead of 8000. And then if we change the port here, and let's put 4000, you can see that we have the information here. So we have a web server running in a Docker container, and if we go to Docker desktop and click on images, you can see that we have this image that we downloaded when we ran that command, and the tag is latest. It means it's the latest build that we have from that image. And if we go to containers and apps, you can see here that we have this container, and we can start that container from Docker desktop also. So if everything went right, we now have Docker desktop up and running. So we have to have this application installed. If we type in Docker and run that command, we have to see this screen. And also, if we come here to Windows and we search for Ubuntu and we launch Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, that's the one that we install, you can see that now we are inside Ubuntu, and we can also program from here. We can also have access from our editor to this Ubuntu installation that we're gonna see in future lessons. Okay, see you soon guys, bye.